Life Management Science Labs would like to acknowledge that we live and produce this podcast on the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri people. We'd also like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands of our listeners and our international colleagues. We'd like to pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sero Boost, the Happiness Science Insights podcast produced by LMSL, the Life Management Science Labs. We're champions of life management science, providing structured insights informed by science and inspired by practice on key aspects of conscious living. Each week, we bring you scientific and practical insights on each element with the expert knowledge of professionals in the field. I'm your host, Lou Ngo, coming to your ears from Narm, Melbourne, Australia. Let's learn together.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the show. Today, we are taking a deep dive into happiness and why people might have or develop a fear of happiness. Our expert, Mohsen Joshanloo, joins us to explain more. Mohsen is a personality and cross-cultural psychologist. His research focuses on mental well-being, optimal aging, and culture. He contributes to the internationalization of psychological science by collaborating with researchers worldwide and incorporating data from across 6 continents. His research on this topic has been published in over 150 articles and book chapters. He obtained his PhD in 2013 from Victoria University of Wellington. He is currently an associate professor at Keimyoung University and holds honorary positions at the University of Melbourne and the University of Pretoria. So I'm excited to learn from Mohsen today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So can I get you to tell us a bit about your background to start us off and what compelled you to pursue psychology?
I think I cannot add much to the great introduction that you offered. But yes, I'm a psychologist and teaching psychology and doing research. And this is a daily thing for me. Every day I do a little bit of research and a little bit of teaching, a little bit of reading. So I spend most of my time with psychology and data, analyzing data, trying to find something new in the data. And honestly, I don't know why I chose psychology. I was young. I didn't even know what psychology was when I chose psychology. But now I'm happy I chose it. Since my bachelor's degree, I chose psychology. Then my master's was psychology. My PhD was psychology. And my career is now in psychology. So, wow, great choice. I'm happy about it. And I love it.
Amazing. Well, I'm glad to hear that you love it, even though you had no idea about it when you first started. That's really inspiring, actually. And what would you say are some common misconceptions, perhaps, that you have heard about happiness?
Well, one of the variables that I study is I don't call it happiness. I call it well-being, and happiness can be considered one type of well-being. Yeah. So this is one of the main variables that I keep studying, and I'm fascinated with happiness. People want to call it happiness. We call it. We use crazier names such as optimal functioning, optimal psychosocial functioning, well-being, mental well-being, psychological well-being, whatever you call it. It's a good thing, right? I've heard many inaccurate ideas about happiness from people and written in books, actually. So pop psychology also spreads a lot of misconceptions about well-being and happiness. The first one that comes to my mind is happiness is a choice. Wow, such a beautiful sentence, but it's not true because now what about your genes? We know that some percentage of happiness or affective well-being or well-being in general is heritable. So it's rooted in genes. Then is it? So how about that? So when you say happiness is just a choice, and if you choose to be happy, you definitely will be happy. I think this is ignoring a lot of facts. Genes also are important. Environment is important, and genes and environment also interact in chaotic ways. So yes, you have some control over your well-being and happiness, but it doesn't mean that you have 100% control. And in fact, this can be actually, in some situations, a dangerous idea to think that you have 100% control over your happiness, because if you are not happy and if you think that you have 100% control, so it's your fault. Yeah. So then it makes the unhappiness even more painful for people. So yeah, this is the first thing. I'm not saying that we don't have control over our well-being or happiness. I just say that we don't have 100% control. And in fact, if we look at it, I would say small percentage of control. We know happiness is rooted in your personality, and personality is fairly stable. Genes are involved, environmental factors are involved. So don't forget about that. It's not like you can be happy like this if you choose to. So this is one misconception. Another one is there's only one type of well-being or happiness. No, there are many types. And in fact, that's a beautiful thing to know that you can choose what type of happiness or well-being matches your personality or lifestyle, and you can try to enhance that component for yourself. So it's not just one type, we have multiple types. Another misconception is happiness just in your mind. So it's an internal thing, it's a subjective thing. It's just tweak your mind and you become happy or unhappy. That's not true. The opposite misconception is happiness is just external. Now, if the conditions are well, you will be happy. Like, give me a lot of money, I'll be happy. So both of them are correct and wrong, because happiness is both inside and outside, and the interaction between inside and outside, the interaction between your personality and your environment, the interaction between your mindset and the actual environment and what is happening around you, your interaction with other people, it's best to say happiness is a result of internal factors, external factors, and how they interact with each other. These are a couple of misconceptions. There are more, but let's just mention these for now.
Yeah, of course. I'm sure there's so many, but that's really interesting. I'm already learning so much, and we're still kind of just introducing our episode for today. I'm going to move on to our Have You Met section. This is where we want to get to know you a little bit better. I'd like you to answer these questions in just a few words if you can, so we can do it like a quick fire. So first of all, a favorite book?
Wired for Culture.
Okay. And what about a favorite movie?
Can I mention a comedy series?
Yeah, of course.
Let's say Rick and Morty.
Oh, yeah. Good idea. And what about a favorite podcast?
I don't listen to podcasts. Sorry, I just don't have time.
Too busy being on them.
I wish I can make more time and listen to podcasts.
Yeah, of course. A lot of people do say that as well. And do you have a role model?
No.
No, fair enough.
Well, I copy a lot of successful behaviors from different people, but there's no person that embodies all the good things that I want.
Yeah, of course. Just copying the successful behaviors and finding those values and traits in other people and mixing them all together. It's a good idea anyway. And do you have a favorite class that has inspired you?
I haven't taken any classes in the past 10 years, even more. So I definitely some of the classes I have, cross-cultural psychology classes with my, during the master's course, that was very inspiring.
Amazing. And do you have an important lesson that you've learned from a class like that you'd like to share?
Yeah, it's a relevant actually lesson. It's generally behaviors are culture specific, but also happiness, well-being are also culture specific. So there are different versions of happiness promoted in different cultures.
Interesting. Okay. Well, we're going to move on now to our interview questions. So these don't have to be quick fire anymore. You can talk for as long as you like. And to start us off and just define some of the basic terms that we will need for this podcast, how would you define happiness?
Scientifically, we don't really use the word happiness unless scientists want to promote their publications to the general public. But this is not a scientific term, actually. We use the general term well-being. Well-being is a broad concept or construct, and it has multiple components. Now, what kind of well-being we are talking about here, because there are different types, like physical well-being, financial well-being, spiritual well-being. But we specifically talk about mental well-being or psychological well-being that pertains to our psychology and our subjective life. So mental well-being has three components. This is an integrative model of mental well-being. There are other models, but in my opinion, this is a very good integrative model. Three components. One of them is emotional well-being. So this one is about your emotional experiences. If you experience more positive feelings, less negative feelings, we call it affective well-being or emotional well-being. Now, you can use the popular term happiness to refer to only this type of well-being. It's emotional well-being. So some people use happiness to refer to this type of well-being. The second component of well-being is more about functioning rather than feeling. So it's how well you are functioning in your life, taking care of your life, your responsibilities, meeting the deadlines, interacting with other people, achieving what you want to achieve. So optimal psychological and social well-being, psychological well-being, psychological functioning. For example, do you have purpose in your life? Do you have a sense of direction in your life? Do you feel free in your life? You can make the most important decisions of your life yourself. These are the important aspects of psychological functioning. It's not about feelings, really. It's about how well you are functioning. And the last component of well-being is the social component of well-being. And this one is more about your relationship with your communities, society, other people broadly. Do you have a sense of belonging? Do you like your community? Are you accepted by your community? So these three components together form what we call well-being. And you can apply happiness, the term happiness, to the whole concept, or mostly to the emotional part of it, but we keep using well-being to refer to these concepts. So broadly speaking, well-being science and psychology, when we say well-being, we are usually talking about one of these components or all of them together.
Okay, interesting. That's a very in-depth definition, and I love that you went into all those three components there. Thank you for that. Next up, how would you define the term fear of happiness?
Okay, fear of happiness is a tendency to have some sort of negative feelings. Doesn't need to be fear. Usually
Okay.
it's actually not fear. So some sort of negative feeling, such as anxiety, stress, suspicion, caution, unease, any negative feelings uh, about the experience of happiness or the expression of happiness. Doesn't need to be experienced. Sometimes you are worried to express your happiness to other people. So having some sort of negative feelings about expressing or experiencing happiness. Why? Because you think that this expression of happiness or um, experience of happiness could have some negative consequences. So this is how we define fear of happiness. And also, I want to say it's not just the experience or expression of happiness, sometimes anticipation of happiness. So you're expecting something good to happen and you have some worries about it, like maybe this good thing happens, but then have negative consequences. So you have some negative feelings about it. So this is the broad definition of fear of happiness.
Okay, interesting. And how commonly do you think people experience a fear of happiness?
What is your guess?
Wow. Well, I think
Very
it's
rare,
yeah.
or very common. Like, how would you? What is your guess?
Look, just reading the question, I guess it depends on somebody's sort of so many things like personality type and that kind of thing. My guess would be not particularly often, like maybe once a week or once a month even. That's my guess. That's my guess.
Okay. Thank you for sharing your guess. Now, I want to start with: is it common in general in a population? So, what percentage of people experience these feelings? So, is it common phenomenon or just very rare? Just maybe less than 1% of people experience it, or maybe. So, we didn't actually know when we started studying fear of happiness, running surveys in different countries. Now we have data from over 30 countries. Now we can uh, make a more informed opinion. Express a more informed opinion about the prevalence of fear of happiness. And what we have learned is that first, it's not rare. You can see in any population people who endorse some sort of fear of happiness. It's not also very common. So it's not like everyone has a lot of strong negative feelings about happiness, but it's also not very rare. The important thing is in every society that we have studied so far, there are people who show some level of some non-trivial level of fear of happiness, and some of them are actually extremely high. So in every society, doesn't matter, Western society, non-Western society, we see that some people score very high on fear of happiness. So what we can say is that it's not very rare. It's also not very common, but it's relevant in every single society, every single culture, every single group. There are people that have very high scores. And if you don't have a high score, it doesn't mean that you never experience fear of happiness or don't have any beliefs related to fear of happiness, because um, it makes sense sometimes to think that maybe this is not a good situation for happiness. Like when you are in a situation that, I mean, let's say you tomorrow you have an exam, and isn't it better to be stressed about your exam? This gives you more motivation to study it there rather than being very happy and just playing around. So sometimes it's better to be not very happy. So in a mild form, in a very mild and normal form, every one of us experienced it, but some people experience it in a more extreme form.
Amazing. Thank you for that answer. It's really interesting to see what the research is showing. As you started talking, before you even really gave your answer, I started thinking, well, it can't be that rare. I mean, we're talking about it. We're going to have a meaningful conversation about this. So it's got to be prevalent and impactful to some people out there. So hopefully we can shed some light on the topic for people who may have a lower level and not really think about, having a fear or negative feelings towards happiness at all. So, if somebody does have a fear of happiness, what would you say the impact is on their overall well-being?
First of all, some people may have some mild forms of fear of happiness and no consequence for their mental health and well-being. So it is possible. A mild forms of fear of happiness sometimes even makes sense, or is acceptable in some cultures, in some families, in some based on some ideologies, some religions. So I don't want to say that fear of happiness always comes with mental issues and mental disorders or symptoms. No, but generally, when we study a population in any country we study mental well-being and fear of happiness and mental disorders such as depression and anxiety, we see that fear of happiness is positively correlated with symptoms of mental disorder or mental disorder, and negatively correlated with different aspects of well-being, social, psychological, and emotional. So as a general pattern, we see a negative impact on mental health. I shouldn't say impact, a negative association between fear of happiness and well-being. But also, so these are correlational studies in many countries. Relatively large samples also confirm these findings. But can we say that fear of happiness is causing mental disorder or symptoms of mental disorders such as depression and anxiety? Fortunately, some studies are being conducted and published recently, experimental studies and longitudinal studies. These allow us to talk about causality with more certainty. And in the few studies published show that a fear of happiness can, to some extent, cause future symptoms of depression, for example, or anxiety. So it may actually exacerbate a person's emotional uh, functioning or psychological, social functioning. So I would say, in general, although for some people maybe it doesn't have many consequences or any substantial consequence, but for others, it may have some negative consequences.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But I'm interested in knowing what other common reasons that people might experience a fear of happiness.
When we ask people, why are you afraid of happiness? Some of them just simply don't know, and that's very normal. Just don't know. These things happen over time, over the course of socialization and development, over years, interaction with other people. So if a person says, I just have this feeling, but I don't know why, it makes a lot of sense to me. And actually, I would say I expect to hear that from many people. But two lines of studies have tried to figure out what predicts fear of happiness. One of them is asking people open-ended questions. List your opinions about happiness, and if you have some negative opinions about happiness, tell us why. A couple of studies have been conducted. Uh, Another genre of research is we measure a lot of variables and then look at the association between variables, the association between potential predictors and fear of happiness. So when we put all these things together, I would say the most important predictors of fear of happiness is lack of emotional skills. Generally, having trouble with emotions, not just happiness, because when we see fear of happiness, we also see troubles with other emotions as well. So if a person is not comfortable with happiness, there are chances that they are also not comfortable with other emotions. For example, they have trouble with their anger also. They have trouble with their sadness as well. They have a general issue with regulating their feelings. So this is important. We see in some people low self-esteem is a cause. In some people, we see perfectionism. This one was very interesting. We discovered that there's a positive correlation between perfectionism and fear of happiness. Like, if you want everything to be perfect, if you want to achieve a lot non-stop, you may start thinking that happiness is a barrier. So it makes you lazy, or it disrupts your performance. So it's better to not to be happy and keep trying and keep making bigger achievements. So perfectionism can be another predictor, psychological predictor. Uh, when I also should emphasize that a fear of happiness develops over the long term. It starts from childhood, interaction with people, family members, family's emotional style, family. It's like if a family is not inexpressive, they don't express their feelings, they are not comfortable with feelings, chances are that the child also will end up uh, inexpressive of the feelings, and then this can be the root of having trouble with happiness as well. So interaction with family, how they reacted to your happiness when you were a child, these are also definitely important, also difficult to measure and study. And then we can also talk about beliefs that people have and beliefs that cultures have. Some cultures believe in the evil eye, so the envious gaze that can ruin your life. And what is the best way to invite the evil eye? Show your happiness to other people, and they feel envious. They can ruin your life. So that kind of belief can also contribute to fear of happiness. Some religions have some ideas like happiness can be even sinful if it's associated with selfishness, or if it's associated with forgetting God, can be sinful. Uh, Pleasure and happiness and positive feelings, like personal positive feelings in general, can be in some religions um, can be considered troublesome sometimes in some contexts. In some cultures, people may think that expressing my happiness maybe is a kind of showing off and people don't like it, so it's better just to hide it. And because people may think that I'm showing off and this is bad for my relationships, this may disrupt my interaction with other people and social harmony. um, some cultures believe that if you express your happiness you may lose it. Some cultures believe in the dialectical idea that happiness and unhappiness, they take turns. So maybe extreme happiness is a sign that unhappiness is coming. And there's a saying in a culture that if you laugh loudly, you may wake up sadness. So there are many ideas, cultural ideas, religious ideas, folk ideas in different cultures that people may have about happiness, and some of them can contribute to a fear of happiness.
That is so interesting. I had written down here that you'd done a lot of research on the cultural differences, and I'm glad that you've gone into those examples because they are fascinating. Now, also, there is a fear of happiness scale developed by you and a few other researchers, I believe. Can you tell me more about how that was developed?
I developed that scale when I was doing my PhD. So that was part of my PhD. And then my colleagues joined me. We collected data in many countries. So the scale has 5 items. It's a very simple scale asking about people's opinions about consequences of happiness. The scale has been used in many countries in the past. Over a decade, it has been used in several countries. We have data from over 20 countries using this scale. So it has been very useful in creating empirical evidence on fear of happiness. And much of what we know about fear of happiness across cultures is based on this scale. And the scale has been used across countries. For example, we did a study in 15 countries ourselves, my colleagues and I, using this scale. And now we know that also in every single culture, fear of happiness is relevant. And there are people who have high scores on fear of happiness, but in some cultures, it's more prevalent. So some cultures score higher. Which cultures? In general, traditional and collectivistic cultures are more likely to have a higher score on fear of happiness. Secular and individualistic cultures are more likely to have a lower score in general. And we are talking about cultures now, not people. So, um, for example, the Netherlands, New Zealand, these countries have relatively low scores on fear of happiness. Uh, on the other extreme side, we see India, for example, has pretty high, relatively high score. We have some Islamic countries such as Pakistan. We have some East Asian countries such as Hong Kong and Japan. They also have a relatively high score. So at the cultural level, the scale has helped us to discover that fear of happiness is more common in collectivistic and traditional cultures.
Wow. That is really interesting to hear about. And it seems like religion probably has quite a big impact, as you were saying before. All right. So I would now like to move on to our break segment. Now, for this, we are doing questions from the internet. These are questions that we have sourced from people on the internet looking for advice or just asking a question, putting it out there. They might be a little weird or rogue. And the first one is anyone really happy, or are we all secretly miserable and depressed? This person is asking.
No, everyone is not happy simply because we have not evolved to be always happy. And in fact, being always happy is not normal. And but the other side is also not accurate. We are not all miserable, and it's not just how things work. We cannot always be in a specific emotional state. Emotions come and go; they take turns, and that's a normal thing for human beings. We haven't been evolved to be happy, emotionally happy, or unhappy. We have been evolved to be flexible, show different emotions, uh, given the context. So if you are in a situation that calls for happiness, you as a normal human being, you should be happy. I mean, you should express some happiness or experience some happiness at least. If you are in a situation that calls for anxiety, sadness, unhappiness, that's the appropriate response, and you have to show that. So if you are in a situation that calls for sadness and you're happy, that's cause for concern, actually. So we have evolved to be flexible, to experience a wide range of emotions. So it's very normal to 1 minute you are happy, next hour you are a little bit sad. It's okay as long as you are responding to your situation and the stimuli around you and your life. It's okay, and as long as you don't stay in an emotional state for a very long time, then these emotions are just normal, and that's exactly what we want to see. We want to see people experience a wide range of emotions and appropriately, given the context and situation. But I think this person is asking, then why everyone pretends to be happy on, especially on the social media? Well, because our culture is now obsessed with happiness. It's the new trend. 500 years ago, people were not obsessed with emotional happiness. Maybe they were obsessed with other things, such as salvation. Or so, if there was social media in like 500 years ago, people would not try to pretend that they are happy. I think they would just constantly try to pretend that they are pious. They are very religious and close to God, I think. So this is a trend. There's pressure on people to appear happy, to be happy, to pretend to be happy. Well, just that's our new culture, and that's why people um, just want to be popular and just follow the trend. There's nothing wrong with that, but because I have seen people who are active on Instagram, and the Instagram face is very happy, but behind the scene I know them, they are not very happy people. So it may be true that many people are pretending, but social media is not a place for truth. We should know that. So it's okay. Social media is a place for pretending. So, but unfortunately, young people don't know that. Then they go online and see everyone is happy, everyone is rich, everyone is romantically fulfilled, everyone has the best life. Why my life is miserable? Don't forget that, and let's tell everyone that social media is not where you can find truth. It's just it's social media. It's not a place that you can know about yourself or other people. It's just a place that people go to get viewers. So don't expect too much from social media.
Yeah, Absolutely. It's so interesting to see, a really beautiful Instagram feed of like perfectly staged pictures and everyone's happy with family. But if you know that person personally, you might be aware of something difficult that's going on in their life. And, they feel too scared to share that with the whole internet. You shouldn't have to. And
Absolutely.
it's just interesting to see the face that people put forward. Yeah, this person online is definitely maybe being a little confused by the secretiveness of not necessarily being happy all the time.
Absolutely. But also, let me,
Yeah,
before you move to the next question, let me
of
also say
course.
that some people on Instagram maybe are actually happy. So let's accept the possibility that most people are, or a large portion of people are pretending, but some of them are maybe. So I just want to be cautious here. Maybe some people who appear very happy on the social media are in fact also happy.
Yeah. And on the flip side, some people on social media like to share their struggles so that other people might not feel so alone if they're going through the same thing. And they have some transparency, which is nice to see when it does come up.
Yes.
So, this next person asks, why do I feel afraid and embarrassed to show happiness around my family? When I'm around friends, I joke around and appear very enthusiastic and bubbly. But when I'm around my family, I'm the complete opposite, not showing any emotion. What do you think of that?
When someone talks about their life and family, we should be very cautious. I really cannot really say something useful here because I need to interview the person. I need to really ask a couple of questions, and but let's just speculate here.
Sure.
It seems that uh, this person's family has a an emotional style, an inexpressive or unexpressive emotional style. That is absolutely normal. Families, groups, cultures have different styles, emotional styles. So some families are very expressive. They openly express their emotions. Some families, on the other hand, the style is more just they avoid expressive. It doesn't mean that they don't feel these emotions. They just are not comfortable expressing them. So, yes, this family seems to be a family where parents are have the style of not being too expressive with their emotions. So this can be normal. I mean, people have different styles. This can be pretty normal, and it sounds like according to this short question, I don't see a massive struggle here. I mean, if the person says, "When I express my feelings, I get a bad reaction," or my family emotionally tortures me. I mean, that's a different thing. But just saying that they are not expressive, I can accept that as something normal, unless this is causing severe problem, which doesn't seem to be the case. But let's look at a positive thing that I see in this question. The person says, "But when I'm with other people, I'm expressive and I can express my emotions." This is actually a good thing. So the person says, I have the flexibility to use different emotional styles. With my family, I'm not expressive. With other people, I am expressive. So the person is responding to the situation adaptively. This is actually a good sign. Now, what should be done here if this family style of non-expressiveness, if this is not causing too much trouble, just leave it, accept it, and just maybe we can live with that without making it into a big problem and clashes. But if it's really causing severe issues, then it can be addressed. Maybe the family can meet a psychologist and have a discussion about this. But I'm just saying that there's a possibility that this is just a normal thing and can be left alone. You don't need to touch it really. Uh, and the good thing is the person seems to have a flexible, has enough skills to show different types of emotional styles in different contexts. And that's the good news here for me.
Yeah, absolutely. You always act I heard this one time where you take on the tone of voice of the person you're speaking to on the phone because you want to appease them and you want to seem similar to them so that they'll like you. And I guess that's what happens in different social circles as well. You have a different way of expressing yourself.
That's something that we hope that happens, because
Yeah.
some people don't have the skill. So if you're born in a family it's not expressive, so you also start being uncomfortable with expression of emotions, and maybe when you're with expressive people it's difficult for you and you cannot really keep up with them. So but this person seems to be very flexible, so that's a good thing.
Amazing. Well, I have one more question from the internet for you. This person asks, is happiness earned or deserved? I feel so much guilt knowing that there are people suffering. I spent New Year's Eve with friends for the first time in years, and I felt guilty for being around frivolous things, getting dressed, setting up lights, playing music, and so on. I just want to know how to allow myself to live and enjoy it. But should I even enjoy life?
This may seem very peculiar and weird for some people, but I'm familiar with this. Actually, this has been very common in the past. If you look at traditional cultures and some historical eras, this idea has been very actually common. Some religions believe that empathy is the emotion that we should target, not happiness. Empathy is the ultimate goal, not happiness. And so some of these cultures, they meditate to practice empathy, and one of the meditation styles is to contemplate on other people's sufferings. So that's a way to kill your selfishness. That's a way to kill your personal pleasure and increase your empathic capacity. So other religions also have similar ideas, especially traditional versions of some religions have the idea that you should sacrifice yourself for other people, and selfishness is the root of all vices. So it's not really, from a historical perspective, it's not really a weird idea or peculiar idea. It has been common in the past, still in some religions or cultures, common. And for many people also, it's common. It's just I've seen a lot of people who have great empathic capacity and empathic concern for other people. This is not necessarily a bad thing. If you value your empathy, if you find some value and purpose in your empathic concern for other people. But I'm not sure this person, again, I need to interview the person, but it seems that this person is expressing that she doesn't like it or he doesn't like it and wants to have a greater capacity for happiness. Well, that's a valid concern. I cannot really give any advice because I haven't done the interview, but let's again throw a dart in the darkness here. Well, this person is saying that I want to make other people happy, and other people are important for me. I want to make other people happy. That's my main concern, and I have trouble in making myself happy. Well, my first question is, all right, so why? So you want to make other people happy, but why don't you want to make yourself happy? So let's start with this question. Why are you different from other people? So why other people deserve happiness and you want to make them happy? You worry about their happiness, but why not worrying about your own happiness? Why not being your own best friend? Second, another point that comes to my mind is, okay, let's say you want to make other people happy, but isn't it helpful if you yourself are happy? Then maybe it increases your capacity to make other people happy. So if you look at it from this perspective as well, you see, making myself happy makes sense actually, because then I know what happiness is. I know how to become happy, and then I can make people happier. And it will help me in the process of showing empathy. But in general, I think this person, so it's not really just this fear of happiness. I think that this person might be experiencing some guilt in the life, and probably some other basic emotions such as guilt, shame, and some underlying issues should be also addressed. It's not just fear of happiness. It might be other things that we should look at. So it requires a holistic strategy here.
Yeah, interesting. I find that these questions from the internet sometimes they can seem dramatic when you first read them, but when we actually go into it, there's so much like people are just talking about normal things that a lot of people experience, but they might not express it. So it's good to air them out and shed some light on these topics because a lot of people actually do experience it. So I'd now like to move on to our practices and habits segment. What should an individual do, in your opinion, to overcome a fear of happiness if that's what they want to do?
First step is just to recognize there's a problem. So I can imagine many people who have fear of happiness consider it pretty normal because this is the idea they have lived with for a long time, since childhood probably. So probably they consider it normal. So they don't look at it as a problem, I think. So I think the first step is to look at it as a problem. If it is a problem, this is up to the person. If maybe they have bigger problems in their life, so they don't mind. But if it becomes an issue, it's better to be looked at as a problem because we have some evidence that it may lead to future increases in symptoms of other issues. Let me be clear here. Fear of happiness is not a mental disorder. Fear of happiness is not, it doesn't have a diagnostic set of criteria. It's not recognized in any official manual as a mental disorder. It's just a condition such as low self-esteem. It's not a mental disorder, low self-esteem. It can be associated with more official mental disorders such as depression. So fear of happiness is not a mental disorder. It's just something that goes with some mental disorders, or sometimes if it doesn't go, it just feels bad. So first step is be aware what kind of beliefs you have about happiness, or if some of them are actually negative. If some of them are, some feelings are negative, even if you don't have any beliefs, explicit beliefs, just your emotional tendency is negative towards happiness. So, sorry. So first step is to be aware of your feelings and beliefs about happiness. Second step is don't panic. Fear of happiness is normal. Low self-esteem is normal. Everything that humans experience is normal for humans. One of the roles of psychology, one of the main missions of psychology is to normalize experiences for people. Low self-esteem can be normal. It's actually normal because many people have low self-esteem. Fear of happiness can be normal. We studied, and many people have high fear of happiness. So it's pretty normal experience for human beings. We don't need to panic. Don't need to think that, wow, my life is ruined because I have some negative feelings about happiness. No, it's pretty normal. Don't panic. Second, I would start thinking about, okay, I have these negative feelings about happiness. I think I don't deserve happiness, or happiness may have bad consequences, or happiness is not useful for my career. So why should I even be happy? I don't need happiness. Happiness can have negative consequences. So list your beliefs, and then start thinking what contributed to these beliefs. So what aspect of my life, what era of my life, what experiences in my life, what has contributed to this? Is it my religious belief? Is it my other beliefs? It's a kind of paranormal idea that the universe doesn't like happiness. Is it more related to my relationship with my parents when I was a child? is it my general idea that emotions are useless and not helpful? So I should acknowledge that it's very difficult for people to figure these things out. Even if you have a long interview with a psychologist, who still may not be sure how these ideas have developed, these tendencies have developed. But it's a good idea always to think about roots. That's all. That's a very important technique that psychologists use. They want to find the roots of beliefs. And because we have the idea that if we can find the roots and the causes of behavior, it becomes easier to change those behaviors and tendencies. So think about it. Now, after you do this preparation work, just recognize the problem, list your beliefs, think about what has led to these beliefs and tendencies. The next steps can be different for different people. Some people can just by thinking about the fear of happiness, being aware of it, being conscious of it, they can start handling the problem themselves. Some other people would need psychotherapy or counseling. That's if you have money, if you have time, if therapy is your thing, if counseling is your thing, just do it. It's helpful. Talk with someone who knows more about these issues than you. So that is recommendable for many people. But I acknowledge that many people just don't have the budget. They don't have the time. They don't. This is not their thing, like psychotherapy. Now, what should you do if you don't believe in psychotherapy and professional help? How about reading a book on emotion regulation or generally emotions? Because, like I said, fear of happiness comes with other emotional issues and emotion regulation issues. It's not like you have trouble with happiness and no other emotion. Usually, when you have trouble with happiness, you may also have trouble with anger, sadness, excitement, or other emotions. So, how about trying to educate yourself about human emotions? What kind of book should you read? A book written by an expert, a researcher, a professor, a someone who has real expertise. I'm not advertising pop psychology books. They usually give the wrong message. They are not helpful. So target academic books, books that are written for the general public, but by a researcher. So educate yourself about emotions, awareness of emotions. Just start learning the names of emotions. It's not just on happiness. Most of the time, when I say I'm happy, it's a combination of specific emotions. For some people, when you say I'm unhappy, maybe you're saying that it's a combination of sadness, stress, and despair. For another person, you say I'm happy, maybe it's just anxiety and fear. So you should start being aware of different emotions. You should experience them fully. You should express them fully. So there are some probably books, blogs, I don't know, but please find a credible source, not pop psychology or just random Instagram pages. That's very important because they usually get it wrong. What else can you do if you don't like reading books? How about some sort of activity which helps you express your feelings, such as maybe an acting class, so an acting course, like where you practice expressing your emotions. How about a group of people who get together and practice sharing feelings together, if you can find such a group. And finally, I want to say, generally, having good relationships is helpful. Good relation. I'm not saying that take other people's hostages for expressing your emotions or getting emotional validation from them. I'm just saying that having good relationships allow you to express your feelings in a safe environment and get validated, and also validate other people's feelings. So this is a mutual thing that you do for each other. And if you can find good people, good friends, for the sake of friendship, not just for the sake of treating your fear of happiness. For the sake of friendship, it's always good. It's a corrective. It provides a lot of opportunities for corrective experiences, and it's always helpful for learning emotional skills, improving our emotional skills and emotional life. So if nothing else works, you don't have money, nothing, at least find good friends. And don't make friendship about your emotional problems, of course.
Yeah, of course. That has all been some amazing advice. I am thrilled by how much you have shared there. Step-by-step process is really helpful to everybody listening, and so many different options of things that you can do. So thank you so much for sharing that. I'd like to now move on to our open mic segment. This is your chance to talk about anything you're passionate about. It doesn't have to be related to the topic, but it can be if there's something that you'd like to continue sharing. So the floor is yours.
Don't blame yourself for fear of happiness. Don't blame your parents for your fear of happiness or for your personality or for whatever, because they also can blame their parents, right? So let's stop it at the start. So I started by saying that there are three types of well-being. One of them is emotional well-being. Usually people, when we say fear of happiness, that's the kind of well-being that, or happiness that people are scared of or are cautious about or afraid of. Emotional happiness. So, but don't forget that well-being is not just emotional happiness. Well-being has other components. The second component, I just reminding you, is psychological skills, optimal functioning. Purpose in life. How about purpose in life? Finding a better purpose in life, finding a sense of direction, getting engaged in meaningful activities, regaining your autonomy, a sense of autonomy, freedom, start making bigger decisions of your life yourself. How about starting new good relationship with other people? That's also well-being. Well-being doesn't need to be just emotional well-being. Also, emotional well-being is always important. But let's say you have some trouble in that department, emotional well-being. There are other options for you. You can refocus on other types of well-being, such as psychological well-being, which is about finding purpose in your life, doing meaningful activities, autonomy, competence, focusing on making a difference in the world. How about this aspect? So if emotional well-being, the emotional experiences, you feel as you have some troubles there, don't think that's the end of the world, because there are other types of well-being that you can focus on. Many people are actually doing it. Many people are sacrificing their emotional well-being to do big things and make big differences in the world. How about social well-being? How about start contributing to your society, starting enhancing your sense of belonging, this mutual collaboration with your society. So what I'm saying is that, okay, you have many options if you have fear of happiness. I mentioned some of these options, but let's say you don't want to do anything. It's okay. It's okay. Fear of happiness doesn't kill you. I guarantee that. Now change your approach to well-being. Say, okay, emotional well-being is a good thing. I want it more, but I have some worries about it. How about for a while, I focus on other types of well-being, social well-being, psychological well-being, improve them maybe after I start improving my relationships, my social well-being, my sense of purpose in life. Maybe these will help me to redefine emotional well-being for myself, improve my emotional skills as well. And we have some evidence that in the long term, if you can increase your psychological and social well-being, actually it will help your emotional well-being as well. So instead of just panicking and submitting to just an unhappy life because I have fear of happiness, there are other options like a menu. You can choose different types of well-being, different types of goals for your life, and just refocus on other components of well-being. Hopefully in future you will be in a better position to redefine your relationship with emotional happiness as well.
Amazing. Well, that is some more incredible advice, and I'm so thankful for you to be on the show and share that with everybody. So I am going to conclude our show now. Unfortunately, we are out of time. If our listeners, just first of all, if our listeners do want to find out more about you and your work, where should they go?
Internet. And just search my name. And I assure you that there's only one person with my name on the whole planet. I have checked. I know that there's only one person with my name on the planet. I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter, and I just usually post some summaries of my published research whenever I publish some studies. So also sometimes I post about fear of happiness if there are new publications or findings on it.
Amazing. Well, I will get those social links put in the show note for our listeners, so you can go down to our show note and have a look at the links about Mohsen and find out more about his work. So finally, I'd just like to say thank you so much for joining. I have learned a lot in this episode, and I hope our listeners have too. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next episode.
Thank you so much.
You have been listening to Sero Boost, the Happiness Science Insights podcast produced by the Happiness Science Labs, a division of LMSL, the Life Management Science Labs. More episodes are available from 10 life management perspectives and can be found by searching LMSL on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and other podcasting apps available on your devices. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate, share, and subscribe to our channel so that other people can find it and we can continue to provide quality content. More of our work can be found on our website, ha.lmsl.net, where you can join our movement. I'm Lu Ngo. Thanks for tuning in.